Okay, in this tutorial, I'm going to do two things. I'm firstly going to talk you through the actual task that you've been set, which is to create a newspaper story using the notes you took from the last day of Pompeii video. The idea is that you have been an eyewitness to this eruption in 79 AD, and you are now acting as a journalist, writing up the story of the events that you witnessed. The idea here is that you should use as many of the facts that you recorded to create a story. You also want to use a lot of geographic terms, and you'll see in my second bullet point that that's quite important. So, for example, pyroclastic surges were one of the elements of the volcanic eruption that killed everybody in both Pompeii and Herculaneum. So you want to use as many of them as you can, and you'll be marked for the more that you use. You might want, you're definitely going to want to use dramatic, engaging, and interesting language when you write your newspaper story. So it shouldn't be just lots of facts that are just based on what you watch in the video, but you actually need to then turn that into an interesting story which grabs my attention as the reader. You're going to want titles that are eye-catching. You're going to want to include a photo or maybe a map into your article. And it should look like the front page of a newspaper. And I'm going to show you how to do all of that in a second. Okay. Pay attention to this mark scheme. Have a little read about what you're getting your marks for. Okay. So 10 marks are being actually awarded for your writing and how creative it is and how interesting and engaging. And then the other 10 are for your geography and the use of details and language and how you present your work. You will find in this assignment that there is a little PDF which you can open up just to get an idea, a sort of presentation idea of a newspaper. So we've got a big title, which newspapers front pages often have. We've then got a dramatic heading to our article, which is in larger font. So it's much bigger than the main text. So here's the main kind of story. You might choose to maybe include a little interview of an eyewitness who witnessed the eruption but survived. That would be a nice little extra, quite creative thing you could do. And then you're going to want some photographs. I've got one that is here, which Vesuvius erupts. I've got a title for that photo. That's also important, so I know what the photo is. And when you add in photographs to your news story, you're going to have to make sure that the photograph has well chosen and links with something from your story. It's not just there because it's just a pretty picture. It should be relevant to something you've said in your one of your two stories. Okay, right. Now, what you're going to aim to do is use a Google Doc to create something like this. And what I'm going to show you is how to do that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you a few different steps that you can use to create a newspaper article within a Google Doc. So the main place that you're going to submit your assignment is called My Volcanic Eruption News Report. And this is where you're going to put your work in, and then you're going to hand this in at the end. So what are we going to want? We want a title. So the first thing you're going to do is insert up here, and you're going to go with an image. Sorry, you're going to go with a drawing. So go down to insert drawing and hit new. And it brings up this box. It just takes a few seconds to load up. And once it's opened up, you're going to then want to create your text box with your newspaper's title. So we're going to call it The Roman Sun. You can come up with your own name. It can be anything you want and try to be creative. Now that's quite small, so I'm going to want to change that first of all. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the font type. I want maybe Times New Roman. You can go with any font type you want. I'm going to want to make it bigger, so you hit these three dots over here and change the font size. So let's go with 18, and still not big enough, so we can go with 48. There we go. I want to change the color. I want to go with red. Okay. And I'm now ready. I'm just going to reduce the size of my text box. And I could bring it in like that into my newspaper. But I've also decided I want to include a shape. I want to create a background to my title. So I'm going to draw a box by clicking on this. And you'll notice it fills it, and it means the text disappears. Now, the text actually hasn't disappeared. And I'll show you how to get the text back. But the first thing is I want to change the color of the text box. So I've decided I want a nice light blue color, and the line, I'm going to make that a dark blue around the edge. Or I could go with a border of red. And then I'm going to go actions. So this little step is how I bring the text back to the front. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to where I come with the button order, and I'm going to send backwards. And what that does is it sends my text box to the back, and it brings my text, the Roman sun, to the front. Okay, I'm now ready to save and close. I have to click it twice, and it's now going to bring that in as an image, which I can edit. If I want to go back, if I made a spelling mistake, I can actually edit it, as I'll show you in a second. Just give it a second. It takes a few seconds to load up. And there we are. So first thing I want to do is that's not big enough, so I want to make it bigger. So there we go. I'm going to make it much larger. I want to make it so I can write around it. I'm going to change my margins to 0. That will help you. Okay. And I'm ready to almost write. But I've decided I want 2 columns, like a newspaper. So the next thing I'm going to have to do is go to Format, Columns, and I'm going to go for 2 columns. Just give it a second. It's now created 2 columns. We can see them up here on the ruler bar. So I now could copy text. Now I'm copying from a web page. What you're going to be doing is you might have written your story already in a separate document, and you're just going to want to paste it into your newspaper. Okay. Now, if I just reduce the size, you're going to start to see what this is looking like. So we've now got a title. We've got our story in columns. I might go for a second story of the survivor. Whatever I want. I would want to make sure my newspaper story had a nice, catchy name. So I might want to call it Death of a City. Come up with something that's clever, something using an English skill, maybe an onomatopoeia like boom goes Pompeii, or an alliteration like vicious Vesuvius. And you're ready with your thing. Other thing you're going to want to do is maybe bring in a picture. So select where you want your picture to go. Click your cursor there. I'm going to want to bring in a picture showing Vesuvius erupting. Go to Insert, Image. Now you can either upload one if it's on your computer. If you've got one in your Google Drive you want to use already, you can go there. I'm just going to find a new one on the web. If I title a search like eruption of Vesuvius, and I'm going to get lots of hits, and I might think, that one looks great. I'm going to have that dramatic picture. Selected, Insert. Now my photo comes in. I can resize my photo. Remember, if you're going to include photos, 1 or 2, then make sure you give those photos a title so I know what the photo is. So, the eruption as painted by Pliny, or whatever. And you're going to want to make sure you have your name in it. So Death of a City, and we've got it by, and it could be Alice Small, or whatever your name is. You can turn your name into Roman name. You could add other little clever things, like the price could be 20 sesterci. That was the currency the Romans used. You could add little Roman adverts in. It's up to you. Try to keep everything on one page, but if you don't have enough room, you can put it on 2. Okay, so using these instructions, this video, and the instructions there, stick to those guidelines. Do read instructions. Reading instructions is an important part of making sure you achieve the top marks. you should be able to create a really nice newspaper. And when you're done with it in the document titled My Volcanic Eruption News Report, then make sure you hand it in.